Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, runner, forger, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to a brand new live streaming series, This Week in D&D, where I break down the news surrounding Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and sometimes just the tabletop RPG industry in general. There's no theme music or anything here. This is just kind of a casual stream where I go over basically what's going on in D&D, and yes, it is basically an excuse to do live streams when I'm currently not actually running a D&D game, since we just finished our last live streamed weekly game, and I'm also even in between patron games, so I'm not doing any live streams right now. So I figure, hey, let's come on and just talk about what's going on, and then if this thing ends up being a fun way for folks to get together and chat and go over the news and stuff, then we'll keep it going. But for now, it's just kind of just a fun special series where I'll be covering some topics that have been going on in the last week. Starting with Chris Perkins has retired from Wizards of the Coast. Today, retired from Wizards of the Coast after 28 years. I believe he's in his 50s. With D&D's 50th anniversary wrapping up and the revised rulebooks doing gangbusters is the perfect fairy tale ending for me. I can't wait to enjoy D&D purely as a fan again, knowing the game is in good hands. See you in the Feywild. By the way, I used the phrase, I'm glad I used gangbusters. I used that phrase similarly at some point at home, and my 13-year-old looked at me like, what the hell does that mean? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I had no idea what that phrase meant. And usually it's her who's using crazy phrases. What is he, Gen Z, I guess, or Gen Alpha? I don't even remember. Using phrases I don't understand. So that was a funny way of me being able to use a phrase that she didn't understand. So, man, Perkins, I have such high respect and appreciation for this guy. A lot of folks cite Critical Role as kind of what got them into D&D, or maybe like Stranger Things or something, or they were just playing since the 70s or whatever. For me, it was absolutely Chris Perkins, and specifically Acquisitions Incorporated, that really got me into Dungeons and Dragons as an adult. I think I did play some D&D in high school. It wasn't the best experience. It was fine. As a player, I never did DM or anything. But listening to Acquisition Incorporated, specifically whenever they did, I believe, fourth edition, right? They did fourth edition with the Penny Arcade crew, plus I believe Scott Kurtz. They had like the three of them, I believe, started it with their Acquisitions Incorporated team to kind of show off fourth edition, and then it just survived beyond fourth edition and kept going. And then, of course, it famously went to at the PAX shows, which I'm very thankful that I got to attend many of those ACK Inc. games live in person, and got to watch Perkins be just an absolutely amazing DM. So if you want to know what my main inspiration in terms of my DM style and everything, it's definitely got to be Chris Perkins, I think, above all else. And I do think Jeremy Crawford is perfectly fine. He's a good DM, and he's been taking over a lot of the duties of the ACK Inc. group and a lot of the DMing stuff for Wizards of the Coast. But Perkins is the fucking GOAT, no question. So he will be very, very missed. You can see I did a reply down here on Blue Sky whenever Perkins posted his thing. So I have such respect and love for this dude. And of course met him at PAX several times. It'll be interesting, timing wise. It's very interesting, right? Like, Hasbro is going through some stuff, I think. I don't know. I wouldn't want to work for Hasbro right now, frankly. I don't think. Like, it just doesn't seem like it's the best managed company. I mean, it's not my. I don't want to come in here and just talk shit about a company I don't know the inner workings of, but they've made some very questionable decisions at best. And I also feel bad that just a lot of their movie industry has kind of collapsed all of a sudden. Even the movies I liked, like Honor Among Thieves, did really well. Or sorry, didn't do well at all, even though I enjoyed it. And then Transformers 1, I also really enjoyed and did horribly at the box office. So that just sucks for them. So I don't know if he's getting off of a sinking ship, for example, or if this is just happens to be a time, what's best for him, and maybe looking at just doing more freelance stuff or anything. I mean, he seems kind of young to just. I mean, shout out to anybody who can retire before the age of 60. I mean, in this day and age, that's very impressive. So whatever he does next, I will be, and I'm sure it'll be something I will be eagerly trying to follow and pay attention to. But I cannot say enough good things about Chris Perkins. Like I fucking love him. I love his style. I know my wife got really into what was the one called where he did Strahd? Is that Dice Camera Action? And really, I didn't actually get into that one. I just didn't have time to. I really don't have time to do a lot of these more often ones. She loved that whole show, and then unfortunately imploded due to some kind of infamous player drama. But it still ended up doing, Ack Inc. After that for so long, and is still doing it as far as I'm aware. They just did Ack Inc. Season 2, which was that big, crowdfunded thing, and then that was actually a co-DM where he and Crawford actually split duties, and one of them did every other game. So that was very interesting format. So shout out to Christopher Perkins. You will be very missed for sure. The other thing I want to talk about is Dungeon Delves, which we've got. In fact, I'm going to put my headphones on. We've got the pre-orders are available for the next, a D&D 5e content. Specifically, I believe our first real adventure for D&D 2024. So this is the new preview video that just came out.
Anthology with 10 action-packed adventures, each one featuring a different kind of dragon.
That ranges all the way from wormlings up to ancient dragons, metallic dragons, and chromatic dragons, giving you and your players the unique experience to be able to interact with these incredible magical creatures.
The adventures in Dragon Delves are set up to be as easy to run as possible. So whether you're a first-time DM pulling this book off the shelf, or you're a player who wants to try your hand behind the DM screen when your regular DM is sick, you can dive right in and get started playing these adventures with a minimum of preparation.
And create stories that are all your own, based around the machinations and the wiles of defeating or outwitting or just protecting some of these most beloved creatures in D&D's history. There's finally 10 adventures that range from levels 1 to 12 that allow you to do exactly that.
Okay, 1 to 12. But you mentioned ancient dragons? How does that compute? So 10 adventures, which range from 1 to 12. This is an anthology, obviously, right? So these are going to be self-contained adventures. And adventure, it's kind of an umbrella term that can mean, like, is Lost Mine of Fendover is a sized adventure. And I feel like there's also a difference between like that and like a full campaign, like a Tomb of Annihilation or something, which is a full like 1 through 12 thing. And then there's also like layers and encounters. So there's different like tiers of what I consider adventures. I would consider this probably more like a book of like all the anthologies. I feel like are mostly more layers, right? They're usually like a single large dungeon, which I like. I like big dungeons. I cannot lie. I don't know how much of adventure it'll be. Although some of the, like when I reviewed, what was the most recent? The Infinite Staircase. Some of those felt more adventure-y than others, for sure. One of them involved even like a little open world area, and you were going to different locations. Each of those was a dungeon. Like that actually felt like a full adventure. Versus some of the other ones, which is just like one big kind of dungeon crawl area, and that feels like more like a layer. Plus, if you're going to make it about dragons, I could see where a lot of them would be just mostly about layers, I believe. So it's up on D&D Beyond right now. It's also up on Roll20, I believe. The Ultimate Bundle. 10 adventures for characters levels 1 through 12. Meet each of the chromatic and metallic dragons. That does equal 10, I guess. Which some of them are going to get the shaft and only be like a level 1 adventure, right? So we're going to like, so it's going to be like you're protecting a dragon egg maybe, or it's like going to be like you're not going to fight any kind of dragon. And then the nice thing about dragons is, they're the original like variant monster where you've got multiple versions. In fact, one for each tier of play, I believe, right? You've got the Wormling. Let's see, it's Wormling, Young, Adult, and Ancient, which I think just about fits into each tier of play, the 4 main tiers of play, so that slots in pretty nicely. So it is disappointing that they would still say 1 through 12 when you could easily have dragons. You could fit dragons into all of them, but of course this is Wizards MO, where they like, at this point it's just the biggest open secret where like, yeah, we don't support or do high level play at all. Meet the Dragons of D&D and Dungeon Delves, collection of 10 dragon-themed adventures, characters level 1 through 12. Chromatic metallic dragons, temperaments, alignment, and magic. I will say that 2024 rules do dragons much, much better, by the way. Go check out my review for the monster manual. The dragons now all have more appropriate spell casting. They have better legendary actions. Like, the dragons got a lot of love, and they needed it. Paul about Hasbro. I think Hasbro makes good business decisions and cave to public pressure. The public is dumb and doesn't know what it wants. They should have moved forward with the virtual tabletop. Yeah, I wasn't going to cover the Project Sigil thing because that was technically like a week or two ago. And I want to try to keep things a little more current with these streams. But it's a shame that Project Sigil, I don't know what they're doing with the virtual tabletop, man. I was really excited about it when they did that D&D Direct last fall. I was like, oh, this could be really cool, even though I'm kind of married to Roll20 by now, just because I've been using it forever. But if it's, you know, if it's good and competition in this space is very good and you can have the full support of Wizards behind it, and then very quickly the full support of Wizards collapsed. They laid off like everybody and they just kind of trotted out there at a bare minimum. So it's all but killed, which is a huge bummer. Experience D&D's most iconic monster with stunning artwork rendered in 10 different art styles. I even commented during that video that they had a bunch of vastly different art styles. That's always interesting when they do that for a book. It's usually you want to do a uniform art style, but that's fascinating, yeah. These adventures feature eye-catching artwork from 10 accomplished illustrators and 7 cartographers. That's good news. Each adventure is also precluded with dragon art from through the history of D&D. I'm reading the D&D Beyond description. It provides an exclusive behind-the-scenes look into the new dragon redesign. So, in fact, I can even tell you, Marco Bernardini, who is an excellent map cartographer and has done many of my favorite map art styles of late, confirmed via social media that they've got 5 maps. 5 of the, which I don't know if the math doesn't really work for that, or maths if you're not American. I don't know how that adds up because it said there's 7 cartographers. Marco did 5 of them. There's 10 adventures, which means we must have more than 1 map per adventure is what that tells me. So maybe these are bigger adventures then. Maybe I'm I don't know, lowballing the anthology thing. I'm just picturing all the other anthologies we've gotten, right? Like the Golden Vault and Candlekeep Mysteries, and all of those have been centered around a single location and a single map. But it sounds like, just through deducing how many cartographers we've got alone and the fact that one of them did 5 maps, we're going to have several maps. Oh shit, it just says right there, Eric, Jesus. The digital copy of Dragon Delves comes with 22 play-ready maps. Just finish reading the description. Well shit, that's awesome. It's an average of like 2 maps per adventure then. Now, granted, a map could be like a single room or something, but still, that's more than I was picturing. And stickers. It's also on Roll20, I believe. And for a much more attractive price, I will mention. We are talking about Dungeon Delves, folks. I try not to shill for Roll20 too much. I mean, I do like them and I respect them, and I've worked with them before, and they've sponsored some of my videos. But I try to give everybody a fair shake. But I will say that this seems like a pretty damn good price for a brand new adventure anthology. $29.99 on Roll20. Ooh, look at that. We've got animated. Are we putting like GIFs on here? All right, Roll20. Look at you. I don't think this says any new information on there. 10 illustrators, 7 cartographers, quick start guide. Yeah, 22 pre-populated maps in the Roll20 VTT. Okay. By the way, releases in July, I believe. Doesn't actually say that on here, does it? Roll20 should probably say the date whenever somebody's going to pre-order something. That's that tends to be like the most important information. Does it say on the D&D Beyond? Am I stupid? Like where we're supposed to? I think it's coming. Oh, there it goes. Release date July 8th. Okay, there it is. Hey, Brandon. So yeah, it's crazy to me that D&D 2024 came out at the tail end of the 50th anniversary, I guess, which was 2024. We got the first two books, right? The Player Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and no adventure content to go with it. That's bananas. Like that, somebody fucked up there. Because I've ranted before about how a big reason that the 2014 version did so well is because it released with Lost Mine of Fendelver starter kit. In fact, I believe that came out before the Monster Manual, and I believe the Tyranny of Dragons book, at least the first one, because they split it up into two books, remember, I believe that also came out right alongside the launch, if not before, like some of that content. So you got adventures right away. Now here, and obviously it's still 5th edition, so you could argue like, well, we don't really need new adventure. But I mean, if you're going to put out a whole new, 0.5 edition or whatever, then give us some adventure content, especially with the new Monster Manual, which I really was very positive on the new Monster Manual and thought it did a great job of updating a lot of creatures and giving us a nice, blanket rebalance for a lot of creatures, even things that I was already doing on my end to like help fix a lot of fights and things. I saw that reflected in their new design process, so I was very positive on it, and I want to see adventures that use that. And I think this is the first one we're going to get that's going to use the new 2024 monsters, and it's not coming out till July, which at that point will be like, 9 months into the 2024 rulebook and Dungeon Master's Guide, and like 6 months after the Monster Manual. So that's crazy to me, but I mean, it's coming. That's good. I'm excited about it. I like adventures. I like official adventure stuff. It's been forever since we had one. I think was Vecna the last one, or I think Staircase was the last one, which would have been almost a year ago. I think by the time this one comes out, I think Quest for the Infinite Staircase came out right before 2024 Player's Handbook came out, I believe. And like nobody, I feel like I was the only person that talked about it. Like I didn't see anybody talking about that. And granted, it was not technically new stuff either. It was another Tales of the Yawning Portal, right? It was like classic adventures that were updated and converted into for the edition, but had some really good stuff in there. So I guess Vecna, which is now I think a year old right now, was the last like truly original campaign that we got. So we are thirsty. I am hungry. I am thirsty for new official 5e content. I know it's in vogue to kind of shit on all the official releases, but for the most part, I've enjoyed them, at least as a baseline to, expanding and tweaking them as I do. But having to wait till July at this point, God, that's still 3 months away. We're 3 months right now. It's also right around my youngest birthday. And I think after that, we're getting a new Sword Coast book, right? I believe it's another kind of Sword Coast Adventures Guide, something along those lines that kind of adds some more. It's our first like DLC player handbook, basically, but I'll cover that as we get closer to it. I just want to talk about Dragon Delves. Have I been calling it Dungeon Delves? I need to call it Dragon Delves. Why did I fucking say Dungeon Delves? How embarrassing. It's not called Dungeon Delves, Eric. Fuck. We're going to fix that right now. Where's my... Can't even talk about the news correctly because I didn't get the headline. The fucking Chiron is wrong. Where's my news? All right, we're going to edit this right now. We'll fix it live. All of you that were watching can see me as I fix it to Dragon Delves. There we go. Does it do it in real time? I think so. God, what a freaking idiot. You know what? Dungeon Delves is the more common phrase. So that's probably why I looked at Dragon Delves and my brain just immediately translated into Dungeon Delves. Dungeon Delves are also good. So yeah, if you have any other comments or anything about Dragon Delves, then let me know. But I think it's still early enough. They haven't released any, what I'm hoping they do is maybe release like one adventure from it, because I've seen them do that before, right? I believe Keys from the Golden Vault, I think they released a kind of a preview adventure for it that was just free on D&D Beyond. If they do anything like that, I will definitely cover it, and I hope they do, because that would be a really good taste of kind of what's to come. I think the best we get here, if you... Can we click on these? Okay, I thought there was something else that showed. Maybe the Roll21 shows other tantalizing... Maybe it's just art. Yeah, they haven't released any of their stuff. Okay. But if they do some kind of preview thing, then I will look at covering that for sure. Otherwise, we'll have to wait till July to do our first big 2020 adventure, which would be too long to wait to determine what I'm doing next. I will say that. So I assume I will have started my next campaign by then. I mean, that's 3 months from now. Maybe not. Maybe it will be like, oh shit. But I think I'd have to be like ready and prepped and stuff. And if this comes out, then I will be like starting at square zero to be putting this out. So in terms of me running this adventure, I have no idea yet because I don't know anything about it. But I like dragons. I like both Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't think we get enough dragons, so... There you go. That's about Dragon Delves, now that I finished it up. Another thing I want to cover is Riverbank, which is... Where is Riverbank? I've got a bunch of tabs open. Riverbank role-playing game from Kobold Press. This is currently on BackerKit. It looks very different from anything I've seen Kobold Press put out before. Usually their stuff is very... Well, it's 5e, right? They're one of the biggest third-party... Honestly, they kind of replaced Paizo in terms of making stuff specifically for 5th edition. Obviously, Paizo does its own Pathfinder and Starfinder and things right now. I feel like Kobold Press is kind of fit into that niche of a bigger publisher with multiple people working for them, a whole lot of freelance folks that chip in, and they create full-length campaigns as well as shorter adventures and a whole lot of splat books. They've got their own world and stuff. Shout out to all the patrons who we just wrapped up our big campaign that was set in their world of Midgard over the last 2 years, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Called Empire of the Ghouls. This, I believe, is not necessarily 5e related, but I wanted to cover it because it's Kobold Press, which I really enjoy, and it's a RPG. The actual theme of it, I don't know anything about. It's a tea party with animals, kind of like a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. You know what? I haven't even watched the video. Let's just watch the video. It does... Yeah, it looks... Humblewood... So fun fact, I actually played a little bit of Humblewood for my family because it was very kid-friendly. Kind of. Kid-friendly in like a Black Cauldron kind of way. It's animated, but things happen. But yeah, in terms of anthropomorphic animals, for sure, which is something I really enjoy. I mean, I obviously grew up with Disney movies, and I really enjoy the theme of anthropomorphic animals quite a bit. Humblewood is definitely 5e, though. It's purely 5e. I don't know what this is, so we're going to look at it together and see.
Dust off your finest hat and tighten your suspenders, because you're invited down to the Riverbank. In this new cozy RPG from Kobold Press, you navigate the intricacies and often the bedlam of polite animal society. Designed by award-winning writer Kij Johnson and featuring art by Kathleen Jennings, each page brims with charm and whimsy. At the table, your decisions matter. So, while animal life might seem as effortless as a stroll in the garden, your social calendar demands much more than a stiff upper lip. Riverbank introduces a new role-playing system, and players must balance their characters' animalistic and poetic sides. Veer too far to either side, and total disaster may follow. So grab your friends and put on your finest plumage. Then come dance a waltz of whimsy with a hint of hilarity and a dollop of drama. The cozy Riverbank RPG awaits. Download the free preview PDF and pledge today on BackerKit.
Okay, there's a free PDF available. By the way, it's raised. The goal was for 50,000. And they've raised 113 so far, so it's been pretty successful with over 1,100 backers. Also, I appreciate Kickstarters that, or crowdfunding in general, that actually have more reasonable sounding goals. Something that I think drives me nuts and I think sticks in the craw of a lot of folks. And you'll see this with Kickstarters who they'll put their funding goal super low because there's that psychological effect that players want to back a winning horse. So they'll set their goal really low, and then they'll immediately exceed that, and then they go like, oh, we're 130% funded in 24 hours or something. Like, well, yeah, you set your goal at like $2,000 or something. You can't do anything with that. So 50,000 at least sounds like an actual print run, like a modest print run. So and you've seen that too. Whenever they barely make their goal, like after 3 days, and they have to like cancel it because they're like, oh wait, we actually didn't make as much money as we thought we did. So this one does seem like it's gonna be a success for them. In Riverbank, you join an intelligent society of anthropomorphic animals and enter their life of cake and tea time by the slow part of the river. This kind of sounds like a board game. Here, the charm of cottagecore meets the delight of sophisticated critters as they navigate the polite animal society. It very much sounds like that Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which I haven't seen in forever. Or is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride just the name of the actual ride at Disney? I think maybe it's called something else. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Though that had that kind of art style. Weave farcical or dramatic tales of elegant characters celebrating friendships, navigating social niceties, and weathering the unique dynamics of animal life. Attend tea parties, stroll through gardens, and win the prize at the village fair, all while trying to dodge difficult relatives and keeping a stiff upper lip. I feel like I have to talk in a British accent here. I'm going to devolve into one. Or evolve into one. The game is optimized for 3 to 5 players using standard dice to resolve player decisions while balancing the character's animal and poetry sides. Fall too far into one side or the other, and total disaster may follow. Interesting. I guess if I was more prepared, I guess I could click on the PDF, depending on how far we want to go into it. Rewards include a full-ass hardcover book. We've got cards. What are these? Beautifully illustrated rulebook and rosewood dice and tarot-sized cards that guide gameplay. What does that say? The between times? Haphazardry in between times. Okay. It's like event cards or something. Wind in the Willows. Thank you. Why could I not think of that fucking movie? Thank you. I'm going to crumble into dust because I think it's an old-ass movie, too. Sense and Sensibility with animals. Not a fan of the furry style stuff, but there is a group that likes it. Yeah, I guess I like furry stuff. Oh, that's a out of context quote. I've never gotten into furry stuff like from a fetish thing or like a dress up thing, but I like worlds and characters that are anthropomorphic a lot. In fact, if that's an option, in a way I think of like Dragonborn almost as anthropomorphic, right? They're kind of like a humanoid monstrous hybrid. Like whatever game you have, if you give me that kind of an option, if I can play like a lizard folk or a dog person or a cat person or something, like Elder Scrolls, right? They had, they've got a bunch of elves and humans, but then they also have oh God, Eric, now you have to embarrass yourself to remember what they're called. The Khajiit, the Argonian. I think, are those only 2? The cat people and the lizard folk, I think, are the only maybe the 2 that are a little bit. But anyway, that's what I like. I was like playing those kind of characters. I just think it's more interesting than playing even like a human or an elf or a dwarf or something. Yeah. Humblewood is fun, yeah. Humblewood, also, I think, didn't they actually just recently... I was unprepared for that. They might have actually just put out a new thing. It might have been 2 new. I might have to save it for next week. I think they just came out like today or yesterday with a new Humblewood thing. Yeah, they did. Well, we can talk about it for maybe a hot second. In fact, I think they're calling it maybe Humblewood 2. Well, I don't want, let's stick to Riverbank real quick. Okay, Riverbank, you get a novel. You get tea sets. Wow, okay. You get your own teas. So it's more of a social role-playing game. Not quite my MMO, my modus operandi, or my massively multiplayer online game. Obviously, I prefer a little bit more action, a little more death and destruction in my RPGs. but that could be cute and fun. And the big thing I want to point out is Cobalt Press, just, they don't miss. Like, they make really good games. So this is, I do think this is worth checking out. There's a free PDF that you can check out, which looks like it has some good, just a good example, kind of a vertical slice of what you're going to end up getting. I wonder what I guess I should look up what the pledge levels are too. That's always good information. Pledge levels. The cheapest one. Let's see. Okay, just the PDF is $25. That's not bad at all. I don't know how long it is. But that's pretty good. And then, okay, hardcover is $49. That's in line with every other RPG book, which also includes a PDF. And then you can also add on the deck of cards, which has your, what do you call it, haphazardry and between times. And then they had some crazy editions where you could get a limited edition hardcover book, or the one that includes all the tea sets and everything. This is specifically on backer kit, by the way, not on Kickstarter. That's Riverbank, a cozy RPG of elegant animals, chaos, and whimsy. It has 20 days left, so plenty of time. It looks like that would have it be at the end of the month. So plenty of time to go check that out. All right, so real quick, if I wanted to... There we go. Humblewood, Beyond the Canopy. So we'll talk about this real quick just because y'all reminded me about Humblewood. But I think this literally just went live like within a day or two ago. Humblewood, kind of the next new big thing from them. Wow. Talk about very successful. So this one is Kickstarter. Now see, I think that's a bullshit low goal. 10,000. I don't know if you're getting a print run done with that. Obviously, they blew past that goal. They're at 300,000 right now. 2,500 backers. Wow. My goodness. Are we still in the early bird rewards? What was the first update? Yeah, funded stretch goals unlocked. April 9th. Okay, they just launched it April 8th. So there you go. Well, let's watch the video for it, because I do like Humblewood. Video time.
Return to the magical world of Humblewood and journey past the edges of the wood to discover the wondrous continent of Western. Its wide grasslands, lush jungles, icy plains and stormy mountains await. But Clay Suzanne has reawakened. With the awesome power of the aspect of water, he reshapes the world according to his vision, transforming folk into heat-hungry, frost-burnt monsters. Can you chase down the truth of the Fizzars and save Western before it falls into a new ice age? Humblewood Beyond the Canopy is a campaign setting for 5th edition D&D, where you play as one of 8 new species from cats, parrots, lizards and more. And play through the Heart of Ice adventure using exciting new locations, monsters and NPCs. Along with standard and deluxe editions, explore high-quality accessories from dice, minis, maps, to handmade exclusives, and so much more. What kind of hero will you become? Back Humblewood Beyond the Canopy on Kickstarter today.
Okay, they're literally calling it Humblewood 2. Well, they're not calling it Humblewood 2, but the website is called humblewood2.com. So yeah, I backed the original Humblewood. Didn't get to finish the campaign. We played a few sessions of it. I was pretty impressed. It seemed like, you know, like a Lost Mine of Fendover length adventure, which I think is really good, and I believe it even went from like level 1 through 5. It's all centered around this giant tree city, which is home to like this huge race of bird folk, which are all based on actual, you know, real world birds, as well as having like raccoon people and squirrel people. They're all called different cool things. But it's all 5th edition, right? You don't have to relearn a new rule set like I guess you would with Riverbank. This one is purely compatible with 5e, I believe, right? Does it say 5e anywhere? I hope it says 5e somewhere, because it's kind of the whole thing. And I think since then, that was a couple years ago, they've released a few like Humblewood expansions. And the main thing is the art is just bananas incredible. 6 new races and 2 new... Okay, so assuming it's fully compatible with the original Humblewood. Oh, there you go. Adventure levels 5 through 8. So that would basically continue... You could continue the campaign. That's pretty cool. Because I believe that first Humblewood adventure, which I forget if it has a name or not, I believe it's basically like Lost Mine I Found Ever, where it goes from like 1 to 5. 40 plus monsters. 5e, okay, 5e 2014 and 2024 compatible. Ascending guide to 5 fascinating regions. Yeah, probably the biggest limiting, I think, of the original Humblewood was it really only had the one kind of starter area region. So this one sounds like it very much expands. That was part of the trailer showing off the entire continent they were doing. 250 plus page book. Playable races include a pangolin-like Arma hedge. That's cool. The stubborn goat-like caprons, playing a tuba. The elegant cat-like Illurins. And all the cats just look like Khajiit to me. The dedicated badger and weasel-like Mustals. The fluffy chinchilla-like Rockborough Gerbine. The Gerbine were in the first one, I believe, so this is just kind of a maybe offshoot of that. The inquisitive parrot-like Cetas. Definitely seeing fewer bird folk, because there were a lot of bird ones in the original one. There were like 5 or 6 bird races. The tiny hummingbird-like Sylphs and the crafty gecko-like Tilias. I love the little gecko dude. That's awesome. New classes and subclasses. The Gadgeteer with 3 subclasses. The Deep Root Sorcerer. Oh, so these are subclasses, I assume. The Oath of Mysteries Paladin. The Way of the Wrangler Monk, literally wearing a cowboy hat with a lasso. That's pretty awesome. I wouldn't even think about doing like a cowboy monk type subclass. That's interesting. As well as the new races and classes, 10 new spells, 4 new backgrounds, 8 new feats. Provides all player content in line with the 2014 rules and a PDF conversion for the 2024 rules. You can play the way you prefer. Interesting. So they have it like as an optional patch note kind of a thing. PDF conversion for the 2024 5e rules. Okay. GMs can also share the player's guide to Wesden PDF with their players, which give them everything they need to know. That's nice, because so many source books are GM facing, right? So to be able to actually, if your players are interested in the world and need like a little baseline, like I hope it's well written and designed where it's not going to put your players to sleep, or like they'll be like, all right, yeah, I'll look at this as homework. But that would be very helpful to be able to give them some backstory there. Everden. Venture into the icy wilds of the Crystal Expanse, the chilly valleys of the Frost Caps, the wide grasslands of the Fernveld, the tempestuous peaks of Stormcrag, and the deep jungle and vibrant cities of the Tangle Wilds. Give me all those adjectives. Those are good. 15 new magic items, 40 plus monsters. Heart of Ice, a new adventure for heroes level 5 through 8. This is your first game in the world of Humblewood, or pick it up at the end of the first adventure from the Humblewood campaign setting. Yep, I just called it. So very interesting, and probably a good solution for Humblewood fans. Or you could just say, hey, just start at 5th level for people who don't want to go through the first one. Embark on a thrilling chase across the continent of Wesden to stop Clythazar, an ancient undead Fizzar. Meet adorable and memorable NPCs. Also face off against a rival group of adventurers who want to outwit you for their own gain. Flooding the land of freezing folk and creatures alike into heat-hungry monsters. Cool. That sounds very adventure-y and cool. Good lord with the stuff y'all are offering. Oh my goodness. We've got the book, a box set, original character commissions, pins, the GM screen, which looks lovely, reference cards, jigsaw puzzles, dice bags, dice trays, other dice available, wooden chests for dice, hats, shirts. This is like the whole merch store is open. A fucking candle. My goodness. I mean, the art is a huge, selling point for this series. So it's I support them putting all this art up here. Is that a goose suffragette? Quite possibly. So $30 gives you the print and play PDF. A little more expensive than Riverbank. But you do get, okay, you get print and play standees and reference cards and the player's guide. So maybe you get a lot more stuff. That's pretty good. $50, the Digital Deluxe, which gives you the STL files for 3D printing, as well as virtual tabletop, which it took a long time from when Humblewood released to when it came out on virtual tabletop. I remember these things are usually not synced because they're having to work with other companies, like, for example, Roll20 or the other ones out there. So it might not be right when it releases, but you do get it eventually, as well as MP3s, PDF. And then the actual hardcover book is $60. It will eventually retail for $65. Deluxe hardcover for $80. Minis, miniatures, which I'm not a mini person. I love board game Kickstarters and I love tabletop RPGs. I am not a mini person at all. Like, just a standee is fine. However, I'm a map person. I am a map person, right? I love my maps. Y'all know I love my maps. So that's another. I give me the good maps, but for the actual characters, it's whatever. $100 gives you the box set. I mean, this looks very cool. What is the date here? October 2026. Damn. They are, which that, you know what? That's better than trying to say, hey, we'll have it here in 6 months, because that shit never happens, right? In fact, I haven't backed this year, and last year I did a lot better. I went through a couple years post COVID where I just went overboard on backing board games left and right. And you could always add whatever date they said was going to be the estimated delivery. You could add 6 months to a year on top of that date for the actual correct delivery. And in case of stuff like Frosthaven, I think it was like 2 years later or something. I've never had a bad experience necessarily. I've had games I've been disappointed in, obviously. Frosting was probably the one that took the longest, but I mean, it did finally release and had a whole bunch of crap in it. But I respect when they actually say, you know what? We're not going to have this for another like 18 months. Like, yeah, that's probably true. So that does put a damper on if I'm getting excited about, okay, maybe I'll run Humblewood for something, which I still could, because I have obviously the 1 through 5 adventure. I would not get my hands on this new stuff for quite a while later. Where I played a Gerbine Gangster Rogue. Nice. That's pretty funny. I know. I just love that world of anthropomorphic animals. I think it's so adorable and awesome. VTT conversions take forever in my experience. Yeah, they certainly can. Do you plan to review Crooked Moon? You'll have to give me some details about that. I'm not familiar with Crooked Moon. Is that a new, is it 5e or is it just tabletop RPG? By the way, to talk about just other tabletop RPG, the freaking Alien RPG, I don't want to go over it here, but it's doing so friggin' well on, I forget if it's Kickstarter right now, but it is just like absolutely, the crowdfunding campaign, I believe, is still going on right now. It's for the new edition of the Alien RPG. And I mention that because we're literally playing the Alien RPG next up with Chris as the game master, or the mother, maybe, I think. So I'm looking forward to that, but we'll play the original edition, obviously, because the new one's not out yet, but it's doing very, very well on crowdfunding. So, I mean, you know, despite the economy being kind of in trouble right now, people are still pledging for stuff. So that's, I guess, a good sign. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Humblewood. I could even see myself backing this one, just because I do really respect this company and really enjoyed the first one, even if I didn't get to fully realize it. But more of this world seems like an awesome thing. Yeah, so I could see. I don't know if I would even need. I don't think I got the physical. Did I get the physical? I don't think I did. I think I just got the digital version. I have to go back and look. I don't see it on my shelf right now. That's what I was looking at. So that's Humblewood. All right, coming up. Gosh, it's already been, what are we at? Almost 50 minutes so far. These are the biggest 5e Kickstarter in history. I'll drop a link. It's the Legends of Avantris team. Okay. I'm not familiar with the biggest 5e Kickstarter in history. Dang. That goes to show how much I pay attention to the crowdfunding crowd, I guess. Which I mean, I should do more because there's really good stuff coming out of there, and it's honestly probably the best thing for creators, because if you do something like the DM's Guild, they're going to take a lot more in royalties. So if you can do a your tabletop RPG adventure without specifically using like Waterdeep and the Sword Coast and stuff, if you can make it more setting agnostic, then I believe Kickstarter or whatever equivalent crowdfunding site you like is probably the best way to go. But you have to put together a good page, right? And there's obviously a ton of folks out there that get tutorials for all that, but it's gotten to where people expect the thing to be like near completion. They want to see like the art, the gameplay, the videos, all this. So just scrolling through, you can see like all the information on this one. Obviously, is way up there with it's making pretty good bank. I wonder where we will end up with Humblewood Beyond Camp. What's everybody's guesses right now? Because it's only been like out a day or two, and we're already at 300,000. I guess there's actually websites you can use, right? Like KickTrack or something that literally showcases the trajectory. Will we hit the million for Humblewood? I don't know. Could be interesting. All right. What else are we talking about? The Salvatore novel. So, R.A. Salvatore is written or is about to release a new novel based in obviously the D&D world, this time starring Drit's daughter, which I have a huge blind spot when it comes to D&D novels. I read a lot of Dragonlance novels back in the day, and then nothing in the Forgotten Realms. And then, unfortunately, the last two like D&D related novels that I've read as an adult have both been not good. Whenever I ran Tomb of Annihilation, I read The Ring of Winter, which had what's the guy's name who has the Ring of Artist Kimber. It stars him, and it's the kind of the Chult adventure. I thought it was just not very good at all. And then I read the first Dragonlance book. I believe Weiss and Hickman both wrote it. Dragons of Time something. Because I was all excited about, oh man, Dragonlance is back. Because it kind of was not a thing for like the last 10 years. And I did not care for that book at all, unfortunately. So I don't have a good track record right now. But I have not read any of R.A. Salvatore's book series. I'm sure some of you can tell me that they're worth reading, or maybe there's a good starting point, because it sounds like this is the start of a new trilogy that's actually kind of a spin-off. In the Wake of This is, by the way, from Polygon, which wrote a good article on the new book. In the Wake of Salvatore's the Way of the Drow trilogy, which concluded with 2023's Lolth's Warrior. The writer is back to launch a new series. Polygon's exclusively revealing the title, synopsis, and cover of Salvatore's next novel, The Finest Edge of Twilight, which kick off a new saga focusing on Drit's and Caddy Bree's daughter, Brianelle Zarina. Brianelle sounds like the fucking whitest white girl name, even though she's half drow. But that's why she goes by Breezy, which is also kind of a dumb name. Sorry. Let's see. Official synopsis for The Finest Edge of Twilight. Breezy Jordan is more than just the heir of legendary heroes. For the past decade, she has dedicated herself to the study of combat, magic, and more recently to the elusive way of shadow. Oh, is she a monk? Honing her body and mind into a keen and singular weapon. But even after years of effort, her parents, Dritz and Caddy Bree, struggle to see she's a Nepo baby. Breezy is more than just their little girl. Determined to prove them wrong, Breezy takes on the most intense challenge she can to fight her way to becoming a master of dragons at the renowned Monastery of the Yellow Rose. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Westbridge, Dahlia Sinfel plots her rise to power. Once a broken soul, Dahlia has few friends and fewer options to make her way through the world. But Dahlia believes she has discovered a new path to restored glory, the transformative charm and cunning of a vampire. Nice. With every step toward immortality, she consolidates her influence, building an empire from the darkness, even as she contends with her own monstrous instincts and her complicated past with Breezy's family. I cannot take this character seriously named Breezy. As Breezy fights her way through the shadows and Dahlia follows her dark ambitions, both seek to find their place in a world that can be both brutal. I don't use both in the same sentence 2 times. Brutal and beautiful. No matter the challenges, their divergent paths are forged by the same choice. Their fates will be theirs and theirs alone. All right. That sounds cool. Do we get the POV of both our hero and our villain? Because I do like that. Breezy has appeared in a number of Dritz-focused novels and expected to get her own webtoon comic in the future. Holy shit, my daughter is so into this webtoon thing. Like, fuck. It's like the vertical comics that are all like anime style. Like, good lord, those are popular with the kiddos. I know her heart, how she do with the challenges she's never to face. The only way to find out is to put her under pressure. Let me see who she really is. Always with my characters, Breezy gives me the chance to get answers to important questions I might have. I did this with Tritz and his friends for 35 years. Damn. It's a long time to be doing the same characters. Probably why they need to have kids and have the kids have their own stories, which is kind of cool, I think. So are we interested in this? Is this something folks are like... Is this just going to die on the vine? People are like, I don't fucking care about Dritz kid. Or are people like, okay, cool. Let's finally get like a new D&D adventure, but obviously very heavily, you know, it's the cinematic universe of the Forgotten Realms with all those characters. How will Breezy find her way? Salvatore teases Uncle Jarlaxle has some ideas. I know that name. Drow. Hits bookstores on October 7th and is now available for pre-orders. Icewind Dale trilogy slaps. Is that the... Are those Dritz books? I literally don't know anything about it. Like, I have a huge blind spot when it comes to Salvatore stuff. I probably should have read those before I did Run of the Frostmaiden. Paul says, I read a few Dragonlance books. All I remember is the wizard guy was more interesting than the main character. Yeah. Well, it's very much an ensemble cast. I guess the original trilogy that Tanis is the main character. But yeah, Raistlin is a fan favorite. He is, because he's an anti-hero. Like, he's just a selfish, power-hungry asshole who happens to run with the party. It's like, what if you had that D&D group where the one player wants to be the edgy, like problematic character and just kind of barely squeaks by with like staying with the group and not just becoming a villain. But then eventually there is some like very much gray area where, is he going to try to become like a villain or not? But it's cool. He's got like a twin brother who's like, meanwhile, this like Heart of Gold, like paladin ass fighter character. So that's actually, that'd be a fun way to do it. It would just be a rip off of Dragonlance, but that would be cool to have two characters play siblings and have one of them be very good-hearted, one of them be very not good-hearted, but they still respect and love each other a lot, and that's kind of like their weakness and their strength, I guess. I didn't read all the Dragonlance books. I think I skipped the Twin series. Obviously, I read the original trilogy, and then Summer Flame, and then a whole bunch of Fifth Age books when those came out. And then I read like the Daemon Grimwolf saga. What other books did they? I mean, the problem is there was a whole lot of just little mini, stories here and there that kind of filled in the gaps. There was a saga about the Minotaurs that I liked. Richard Knack, I think, who did a lot of the Warcraft books, did those. But the problem also is I read all these when I was like a fucking teenager, right? Like, and going into college, I think. The series started in the 80s, but I didn't read them until probably the 10 years later in the like 90s, probably late 90s, early 2000s. And who knows what I would think of them now, right? That's the thing, is I've got like rosy tinted glasses on that whole series. And then unfortunately I just read that last most recent Dragonlance book. It's supposed to kick off this new trilogy, and I thought it was a very just boring ass nothing book that I just did not care about. So that's a bummer because it put a damper on my love of that series. Begin with the Dark Elf trilogy, then go to Icewind Dale. That will be chronological order. You know what I want them to do? They just did on Humble the Dragonlance like series. You get all of them like on digital copies for like really cheap. I need them to do that for the Dritz books, for the Forgotten Realms books, because then I would pick them up. I prefer physical books. I guess I could do like half price and see what they have. But obviously you don't want to like sit there and just buy a bunch of old book series. At least I don't, like, be Amazon or something, but maybe half price got some things going on. I'm always reading something though. I love to read. All right. And then for my last trick, we're going to talk about a fun topic called tariffs. It's funny because people bitch about politics being in their games. But now politics are all up in our games, bro. Like, you might not care about politics, but they sure as shit are going to care and affect you. So this has been insanity for the U.S. Specifically, that the other problem is to talk about it like the news is constantly shifting. It is exhausting to try to cover like politics in any capacity, because it is, and that's part of the idea too. It's this flood the zone. It's like just pure chaos, shit happening all the time. It's impossible to try to like pinpoint an exact time frame, because literally just in this week alone, like everything has happened, or between this week and last week. Like we had tariffs, which are basically a tax on people for a tax on companies for importing goods from overseas. The idea being you want to encourage companies to instead have their goods come from their own country of origin. The problem is that the original tariffs were done as just a huge like blanket thing. Apparently there's a trade deficit also, which doesn't really compute when it comes to like, you know, how much a country imports or exports with a specific country. It just comes down to like what they need and what they have a lot of that they can export. Like it doesn't really make sense why you do tariffs to try to balance that out necessarily. But then the tariffs weren't even used like in a very like smart way, I think, from what I can tell from most economists and anybody with like two brain cells to put together. It was just like everybody has to be paying this much to try to offset their trade deficit. And then, by the way, China is going to be like doubled and then doubled and then doubled again. I think right now it's like 100+ %. And that's probably the real issue, is because so much manufacturing is done in China, whether we like it or not. That's just the way it is. And we decided like decades ago that that we, and I say we as like the collective consumer public, would prefer the cheapest goods possible, and corporations decided that too. And you know, China has been in their industrial revolution, basically, that they can create this huge manufacturing infrastructure. And particularly when it comes to board games, but also, you know, some tabletop RPGs will be affected. I'm more worried about the board game industry than anything else, because board games are like almost all produced in China specifically. And none of that manufacturing, from the knowledge base to the factories to like the logistic chain, like none of that exists in the United States at all. So if this stuff continues for too much longer, it is literally going to destroy the board game industry, and you're only going to end up with like all those cool Kickstarter ones that I like bagging, like those are going to be like going away, and everybody's gonna have to raise their prices. Like it's going to be a fucking disaster. And there's some really good stuff. You don't have to hear it from me. You can hear it from all of these different publishers. This is from N-World, by the way, has a really great news post about, it's called What Game Publishers Are Saying About the Tariffs. And it basically just links to a bunch of folks who are, giving their opinions and based on all of their knowledge base of being like major publishers. Jamie Stagmeyer at Stonemeyer Games, which doesn't do RPG as far as I know, but makes board games, actually broke down the math for it. You can see here the math of tariffs, again, maths if you're not American, and breaks down exactly how much the cost is going to go down. Like, if you really want to get in the nitty gritty and not just, listen to people be emotional about tariffs and stuff, but actually want to get into like the facts of things according to the publishers themselves who are being affected by this kind of thing, I really encourage you to look for these kind of sources. Don't take my word for it, for example. And a lot of these publishers have some really good information in there. Specifically, Steve Jackson Games and Cobalt Press. I'm going to say their quotes that InWorld has here. Steve Jackson Games says, some people ask why not manufacture in the U.S.? I wish we could, but the infrastructure to support full-scale board game production, specialty dice making, dice cutting, custom plastic, and wood components doesn't meaningfully exist here yet. I've gotten quotes. I've talked to factories. Even when the willingness is there, the equipment, labor, and timelines simply aren't. We aren't the only company facing this challenge. The entire board game industry is having very difficult conversations right now. For some, this might mean simplifying products or delaying launches. For others, it might mean walking away from titles that are no longer economically viable. And for what I fear will be too many, it means closing down entirely. This is Cobalt Presses now. The short and sweet reality is that each hardcover printed outside the US will cost from 20% to 50% more to produce. Which doesn't, by the way, necessarily mean that that's how much more it's going to be costing the consumer, but that's how much more it's going to cost to produce it, which will affect the final price. Like a lot of tabletop RPG companies, we simply can't absorb that tax hike and stay in business. The Steve Jackson Games statement make it abundantly clear. By the way, that's why I wanted to say that statement, because I knew that these guys quoted it. While tariffs can be part of a national strategy, this is a very high, very sudden tax hike for a printing industry that doesn't have a lot of U.S. capacity. There's no way to just move these projects to the U.S., which is how a lot of the argument I've seen is like, well, these people shouldn't be doing business, and this is going to, encourage them to move it, or they'll close down. Be like, okay, so you support this industry like closing down, basically, because it's just not there. So prices are going up to allow game publishers to pay the new import taxes. There's very little we can do about it. If you are unhappy with the price hikes, we strongly recommend you contact your representatives in Congress. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's like everybody's like throwing up their hands saying, well, no, we just kind of have to wait and see. Also, because it's so volatile right now. And in fact, I think just yesterday, they just walked back and said, okay, we're going to go back to like 10% tariffs for everybody except for China. We'll just keep doubling that one. It's exhausting, right? I mean, politics in general have just been fucking exhausting for the last, like, whatever it's been, fucking 8 years, 9 years, something. But this in particular is really fucking with the things that we like. Like, I mean, politics is often fucking with the people I like and stuff that I enjoy, but I think this in particular is being a wake-up call because a lot of people prefer, and maybe they just have a very stressful day job, whatever, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to hear about politics. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to be able to log off and play games. And I understand that a lot. And I would also very politely say you have privilege to be able to do that, because there are some people whose lives are constantly affected by politics who can't just unplug. But I get it. And this is a case where like suddenly politics are all up in your shit because it is going to be directly affecting the bottom line of all these companies and ultimately the price that we pay on stuff. So yeah, it sucks. It's the worst timeline. I don't have any good answers for it other than hopefully it's just like dick measuring between the US and China and somebody's going to blink. Like, I don't know what we think is going to happen, but something could come out in an hour that's going to change everything else. Everything goes back to normal. But in the very least, it's like, well, why did you just fucking stress everybody else like that? Like, it's just crazy. Yeah, I think that was the most recent thing that happened. That's right. The president announced a 90-day pause on tariffs. I think they went back to like 10%, or something, or maybe that's when they got paused. Like, because before it was like everybody was raised by like 30% or 50% and everybody else, but then the China one was already pretty high, and then yeah, they raised it again. So there really is like a trade war between the U.S. and China right now, and yeah, China's got a lot of manufacturing that the U.S. does not do whatsoever. So it's shitty, and I don't know what it's going to... I mean, hell, they Switch 2, right? They delayed the Nintendo Switch 2 was the big thing that they announced last week. Or was it this week? I don't know. The weeks are blending together. And they had to delay pre-orders for the U.S. because of this news that hit. And they are, probably rethinking what the costs and stuff are going to be. So that sucks quite a bit. And that's something that is very demonstrably being able to point to, like, hey, this is fucking with your money now. And that's something that people can hopefully rally around and be like, wait a minute, I don't like people fucking with my money or the cost of my my entertainment goods is shitty. So yeah, that's the terrifying Tariffs. And I think that is all the news that we can cover for this week in D&D. Thank you all so much for hopping on and joining me for this. Was just kind of an experimental live stream program that I threw together at the last minute, basically as an excuse to be like, man, I'm not live streaming at all right now, and I miss talking to folks. And I thought that this is something that I've seen some other YouTube folks do, but I don't know if I've seen too many people in the D&D space do it where they do it live, right? And they just talk to folks, and that's how I prefer to do it. Also, I don't script things. I just kind of chat, and I like chatting with all of you about all this stuff as well. So I can't promise each of these will be a full like hour or hour plus long, because this is the first one, so I had a lot of news to talk about, but hopefully at least we'll have some news to talk about it. I like this time slot though. This is my usual crafting stream time slot. I've got nothing to craft right now for really the next couple of months, I would expect, because I won't be firing up my next campaign for a while. So we'll at least probably be doing that for the next couple of months, like I said. But then beyond that, we'll have to really see how to do it once we do spin up a crafting stream. But let me know what you think about this, later in the comments below or in the Discord channel. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, a big thank you, of course, to the patrons who support this channel. Shout outs especially to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Dan, Brandon, Xenocide, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Knot, John F, John L, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy Splodge, Warden, Hail, LC, Tom, They're Eating the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Shane, Chris, and gold patrons RPG, Peppercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, The Lizard Lounge, Drome, Nathan, Passacatorta, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support, and I'll see you next week.